Hi, I'm Jérémy. Welcome to the Mediterranean Sea, where we are launching floating offshore wind.
The EFGL floating wind project, developed by Ocean Winds, is a pioneering project consisting of 3 10-megawatt turbines installed on floating semi-submersible foundations in the Mediterranean Sea. Funded with the support of the French state, the project was installed off the coast of the Occitanie region in 2025 and is set to start producing electricity in spring 2026. The floaters are deployed 18 kilometers offshore, where powerful winds reach nearly 10 meters per second and at water depths of 70 meters. To keep the turbines stable in these conditions, the floaters are connected to the seabed with 3 500-meter-long mooring lines, at the end of which are anchors weighing between 13 and 20 tons, embedded 12 meters below the seabed. Regular maintenance is required from Port La Nouvelle to ensure everything is functioning as designed, no matter the weather. Enlit On The Road headed offshore to uncover the expertise behind the project and to explore what this pioneering development could mean for the future of floating wind in France.
Jérémy, thank you for welcoming Enlit On The Road to Port La Nouvelle. What is unique about the EFGL project?
EFGL project is unique because it's the only floating wind project on semi-submersible foundation in the Mediterranean Sea. Awarded by the state in 2016 after a call for tender for 4 projects. That was the first and the biggest turbine ever installed in the floater. So 30 megawatt in total means that we can supply electricity for up to 50,000 inhabitants, so which is more or less the size of the city of Narbonne in Occitanie.
When it comes to floating wind, it's quite a nascent sector. How challenging is it to commercialize a project such as this?
Yeah, you're right, it's quite a nascent sector, and the idea of the French state that wanted to be the first in the offshore floating wind by these three floating projects was to create and to get the route to commercialization. But this pilot project were used to start to create the floating wind sector in the area in France, and mainly for this project in the Occitanie region. There is a lack of industrial workforce in France. I mean, lack of welders, painters, boil makers. So that was quite challenging to build and to do most of the work in France for this project.
Were there specific financial mechanisms that helped get the project underway?
Yeah, there are. The states put some money. We have subsidies as part of the Programme d'investissement d'avenir, which are managed by the ADEME, French states. So we have subsidies. We have also a feed-in tariff. And also we have lenders. We have the European Bank as part of the lenders, plus about 6 commercial banks that help us and finance this project. And it's one of the first floating pilot projects that's managed to get non-recourse finance with the commercial banks.
Jérémy, I'd like to refer to the WindFloat Atlantic project. Did you learn any lessons from that one?
Oh yes, a lot. Even that we are still continuing learning. But WindFloat Atlantic project was one first commercial project with a second generation of WindFloat. We learned first with the first generation with a WindFloat 1 prototype that was operated for 5 years offshore Portugal. We learned because we develop, build, install, operate and decommission this WindFloat 1. Then we continue learning when we start developing the WindFloat Atlantic project in 2016. And we exchange a lot with the WindFloat Atlantic team. And most learning curve we had was on the floater because EFGL is using the 3rd generation of the WindFloat floater with a lot of simplification to simplify the fabrication. Well, the design was simple, fabrication simple. It's lighter, for instance, than the WindFloat Atlantic project. We learn also because we are using the same kind of turbine from Vestas. They have 8.4 megawatts. We have the same model but at 10 megawatts. so we could share also their lessons and their feedback on the installation integration in the harbor.
What does a project like this mean for the local economy, and coupled with that, the local supply chain development as well?
We could not develop this project without the local economy and the local supply chain. On this project, we use as a direct suppliers, so what we call tier one, more than 250 suppliers, 99% based in France and Europe, and more than 50% based in Occitanie region. So without Port La Nouvelle, we could not make this project. Without the region developing this harbor, we could never have done it. Our team is local. Most of the people working in this base are from Port La Nouvelle or around. And we have also the CTV team. The crew is from Port La Nouvelle as well.
How did the port infrastructure have to be updated or upgraded to accommodate this project?
Thanks to this floating wind project, the Occitanie region managed to launch the development of the Port La Nouvelle harbor. And they launched that in 2017, so 1 year after award of the project, with the first phase by developing the harbor to accommodate this project. So they increased the size of the harbor by building 2 jetties and by building T-ski, which is 250 meters long, with an area of 7 hectares behind that is done to accommodate storage of wind turbine as well as assembly of foundation, for instance. And the quay was built to burst more the foundations and to integrate the turbine on this foundation. So there is a special area of 30 tons per square meter where the big crane that was used to integrate this turbine was set in. And now they are continuing the development with a second phase to accommodate the future and bigger offshore wind projects.
You did mention that there was a lack of skills. How do you develop those skills to ensure that a project like this isn't compromised?
We need to train. We need to discuss with universities, with training companies so that they can train people. I mean, we need welders, we need painters. There are some in Europe, not in France. So they need to go training and they need to develop this at the university in order for people to be skilled and to be able to work later on the future projects.
What do you think a project like EFGL means for the trajectory of floating offshore wind, and not just for France, but for Europe?
France was a pioneer. After Portugal, France was a pioneer in floating offshore wind project with this call for tender for this pilot project. Everybody, once Windfloat Atlantic was installed, everybody looked at France. So all the Europe turned their eyes towards France to look at the projects. Now, most of the other countries start to launch a floating wind project. So Europe needs floating wind to go further in the offshore, to get stronger wind. We saw that in UK, we saw that in France. Now we have 3 floating projects. We have 3 other projects under development in France of 250 megawatts each. And then soon there will be the new tender. So everybody is looking at that for the future of floating wind in France, but also in Europe.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Jeremy. For more insights, join the Enlit community.